wrote in The Atlantic that the question on the minds of the top military commanders after listening to Donald Trump yesterday must have been, how can I know that an order I received to launch my missiles came from a sane president?
When top military officials announced their retirement just days after speech filled with ideological pressure and threats to military leadership, it's a clear sign that things are heading in a wrong direction.
Our job, my job, has been to determine which leaders simply did what they must to answer the prerogatives of civilian leadership, and which leaders are truly invested in the woke department, and therefore incapable of embracing the War Department and executing new lawful orders. That's it. It's that simple. So for the past 8 months, we've gotten a good look under the hood of our officer corps. We've done our best to thoroughly assess the human terrain. We've had to make trade-offs and some difficult decisions. It's more of an art than a science. We have been and will continue to be judicious, but also expeditious. The new compass heading is clear. Out with the Shirellis, the McKenzies, and the Millies, and in with the Stockdales, the Schwarzkopfs, and the Pattons. More leadership changes will be made, of that I'm certain. Not because we want to, but because we must. Once again, this is life and death. The sooner we have the right people, the sooner we can advance the right policies. Personnel is policy. But I look out at this group, and I see great Americans. Leaders who have given decades to our great republic, at great sacrifice to yourselves and to your families. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your service.
In the days following Trump's rare gathering at Quantico, where he addressed nearly 800 senior military leaders, including generals, admirals, and top advisors, he essentially told them that US cities should be treated as military training grounds, unless of course you ask Mike Johnson, who will insist that Trump did not really mean what he said. At least not in the way it sounded.
Hold on a second. As Speaker of the House, do you answer the question. As Speaker of the House, do you believe it's appropriate to use American cities as training grounds for the U.S. military, calling those people in the American cities the enemy within? I'm asking you, as Speaker of the House, do you think that's appropriate?
I'm not going to comment on your characterization of what the president said.
Those
I didn't get to see that speech because I was a little busy yesterday. Well, you can take his quotes out of context, which you often do, and I don't think that's fair to the president. I'll tell you what he's done, though. He's put National Guard troops here in D.C. and cleaned up the crime problem. People can walk safely to and from work today because the president takes crime seriously. Some of the big mayors in some of these big blue cities are not, and I think that's probably what he was addressing there.
Since then, there's been a wave of sudden retirements. Interesting timing. Trump portrayed domestic unrest as a battlefield, declaring a kind of war from within and specifying, naming cities like San Francisco, New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles as targets. He called for the military to play quiet, a major part of restoring order.
Important mission, and I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military.
Meanwhile, Pete Hegseth did his best to provoke a reaction from the silent crowd, but instead, it landed more like a classic Jeb Bush, please clap moment.
Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
Room, attention.
I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country, to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
In a recent example, General Thomas Absari, commander of Air Force Global Strike Command, submitted his request for retirement, citing personally and family reason. Absari had previously been nominated by Trump to serve as Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force, but that nomination was later withdrawn.
How many flashes of insanity from a president should we tolerate? That sounds like something that deserves a zero tolerance policy. And we have never seen public flashes of insanity from any president other than Donald Trump, and we now see them every day. A president who has failed to get his funding plan passed by a Congress completely controlled by his party, then spends the day creating public versions of his hallucinations about the Democratic leaders of the House and the Senate. The president gives every indication that you could possibly ask for, that he has lost his mind, and every single elected Republican official in Washington excuses it. Most of them run away from it. They don't even want to talk about it. And the highest ranking elected Republican in Washington says, it's funny.
No, sure, this could be written off as just a coincidence, except it's not only high level. Departure recent or even this week. Earlier, General David Elwin announced he would retire midway through his term as Air Force Chief of Staff. A decision may have described as being forced. The Trump administration has reshuffled or dismissed multiple top commanders, including the chair of the Joint Chief, the head of the Navy and Coast Guard, and the Air Force Vice Chief. While some of these exists have been described by outlets like the Daily Beast as part of a broader military purge or repositioning, the timing raises question when serious military leaders start stepping down amid unprecedented political pressure and following a speech unlike anything we have seen before. It starts to look like more than just personal decision, especially when that speech delivered by the commander-in-chief was so filled with falsehood, it had to be fact-checked in real time on CNN.
He also repeated his usual lie that the 2020 election involving him and Biden was rigged. Of course, he lost fair and square. He repeated this lie that he tells over and over, that the Congo and Venezuela both emptied their prisons to somehow allow prisoners to come to the United States as migrants. There was no evidence that any of that happened. President Trump's own team has never been able to offer any corroboration. And I've spoken to independent experts on both the Republic of Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Venezuela who have said they have seen nothing to support any of that. President Trump again repeated this claim we've been hearing from him that Biden let in 25 million migrants. That's up from President Trump's former claim of 21 million. Even that was false. So the actual number is less than half of that, even if you count the millions who were rapidly expelled from the country under COVID era immigration provisions. So not even close. President Trump again said that President Biden provided $350 billion worth of aid to Ukraine. That's also not even close, even generously by independent expert estimates. The actual number is about half that. And we also heard President Trump repeat this claim he made at the United Nations the other day, that he has settled 7 wars. But even the examples that President Trump cited himself show that that claim is not true. For example, he mentioned the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. Well, the war involving those two countries has not actually been settled. Despite a peace agreement signed under President Trump, hostilities continue. We have good reporting from the ground. CNN was there last week showing that the fighting continues. And the peace agreement that was signed under Trump did not involve the rebel coalition allegedly backed by Rwanda that's doing much of the fighting. He also mentioned Kosovo and Serbia as a supposed war he has ended. Well, they have not actually been at war under President Trump. He previously claimed that he prevented a new war from erupting. There's thin evidence even for that, but the claim that he ended an actual war between those two entities is just not correct.
Tonight, one less general in uniform adds more uncertainty across the Pentagon. In an era where politics is seeping into every corner of military command and the armed forces are being framed as tools to clean up American streets, it's more important than ever to watch how military leaders are choosing to respond.